Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. It was a dark and rainy night. Alright, we're still on the stand with Nicole's sister. I don't know how much longer she's going to be on the stand, but it feels like she's been on the stand for a long time. Poor thing. I feel so bad for her.
Ms. Brown, I'm going to excuse you for this afternoon. However, I believe you may be recalled as a witness. You're directed not to discuss your testimony with anybody other than the lawyers in the case. Do you understand the order?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Darden, your next witness, please.
The next witness is going to be Candace Garvey. I'm not sure that she's down yet. Take a few minutes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me then just ask you to step back into the jury room just for the witness to be brought down from upstairs. As soon as she's here, we'll get started with that witness. All right?
Candace Garvey, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Garvey, would you come forward, please?
Raise your right hand, please. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now came before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated. Please state and spell your first and last names for the record.
Candace, C-A-N-D-A-C-E, Garvey, G-A-R-V-E-Y.
Mr. Darden.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Garvey. Are you married to Steve Garvey, the former L.A. Dodger?
I am.
And were you also a friend of Nicole Brown?
I was.
Did you attend her daughter Sydney's recital on June 12, 1994?
Super Bowl
Yes.
Sunday.
And did you see the defendant here at the recital?
I did.
Did you arrive at the recital with Nicole Brown?
No, I did not.
You have children yourself, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
Were any of your children participating in the recital?
Yes.
When you saw the defendant inside the recital auditorium, did you notice anything unusual about him?
I did.
And what was that?
Well, my husband and I walked in, and
All right, sustained. Mrs. Garvey, if you would, listen very carefully to the question that the attorneys ask of you. Please answer precisely the question that they ask.
okay.
All right? Don't volunteer anything. The attorneys will ask you if it's important. Mr. Darden.
Mrs. Garvey, when you walked into the recital auditorium, did you see the defendant?
I did.
Did you notice anything unusual about him at that time?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
It was just, he was not the same as I had ever seen him before.
And you had seen him on many prior occasions, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how was he different? How is it that he was not the same that evening?
Well, in the normal situation, he is very charismatic and gracious and you know, very kind and a happy person. And this time, I immediately noticed that it was a vast departure from the norm of how I've ever seen him before. He just seemed a little vacant, non-responsive.
You said things to him and he didn't respond?
That's correct.
What kinds of things did you say to the defendant?
I said hello, hi, how are you? And he stared at my husband and I, and really nothing in response. And so I said, well, I had the baby. And he just stared at me and said, yeah, Nick told me. And my husband walked away at that time. And I almost couldn't even move. I mean, I knew something, was wrong, and I felt very uncomfortable, and I just...
Have you ever seen the defendant angry?
I saw him upset once before.
Okay. And The time that you saw him upset before, how did his demeanor on June 12th compare to that prior occasion?
Well, the one time I'd seen him, he was,
Anthony, thank you so much.
Overruled. Although we couldn't get some foundation as to where and when the prior occasion was. How long ago?
Did you attend a Christmas party in 1993?
I did.
Who threw that Christmas party?
I think we have the same other problem once you move on to the date of the recital.
Okay, but you have seen the defendant angry on prior occasions.
I did.
Okay. So his demeanor on June 12th, how did that compare to his demeanor on that other occasion when you saw him angry?
Well, the other occasion, he was vocally angry and visibly, vocally, and angry. This time, it was almost like he was simmering. I mean, it's hard to describe. He just, when he stared at me, I felt like he was looking right through me, and it scared me a little bit.
Did you ask him what was wrong?
I did not.
Did you suggest to him that he take any particular course of action?
I did not. Not at that time.
One moment. With Nicole?
I did not.
Did you sit in the same row that she sat in?
No.
Did you see where the defendant sat during the recital?
Yes.
Where did he sit?
He was in the very last row on the right-hand side of the auditorium.
Was he seated next to someone else?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And where was Nicole seated at that time?
I saw her once when I came back. I left the recital at one point and came back, and I saw her at the back of the auditorium I came in a different way than I came in the first time. So if he was facing down, looking down to the stage, he was on the right, she was on the left.
Okay. Did you ever see the defendant sitting in a corner, in the corner of the auditorium?
That's where I saw him. He was in the back corner of the auditorium.
And did you watch him at all?
I saw him as I was leaving the first time. I left in the middle of the recital because my daughter, as it turns out, her dance was either the last or the second to last dance. And so I needed to go home and come back, and I saw him as I was leaving.
Why are you stressing me
And
out?
on that occasion, when you saw the defendant seated in the corner of the auditorium, did he still appear angry?
Sustained.
Or did he appear angry?
Yes.
Overruled.
Did you notice whether or not the defendant was paying attention to the events going on the stage?
Overruled.
No.
You never.
Well, could you please say that again?
Okay. Was the defendant paying attention to what was going on stage, or was he looking elsewhere?
When I was leaving the first time, he was sitting and I don't think he was watching. I don't know if he was watching. He was looking over to the other side of the auditorium.
To his
When I
left?
first, and yes, because I came up and spoke to him.
Okay. And so that we understand clearly, the defendant was seated on the right hand of the auditorium. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right hand side?
Right.
Okay. And Nicole was seated to the defendant's left?
Yes.
Okay. And where was the stage?
In front. If I'm looking from the back of the auditorium down to the stage. That's my view. Does that make sense?
Okay, so the stage was in front of the defendant.
That's
then.
correct.
Okay, but he wasn't looking toward the stage when you looked at him.
when I was walking up towards him to leave, I mean, I don't know who he's looking at, but he was not looking down towards the stage because he didn't, I don't know if he saw, I don't think he saw me coming because I walked right up to him and he was not looking in my direction.
Okay. Did you notice anything unusual about the defendant's facial features while he was at the recital?
Just his jaw was set. It was just not the same person I'm used to seeing.
How many times did you actually have contact with the defendant?
3 times.
Okay. And where were you the first time?
Right in the, when you walk through, when you come into the auditorium, but not into the actual auditorium, the little room in front of the auditorium, I saw him there. I spoke to him then. And then when I was leaving the first time, I spoke to O.J. then, and then I spoke to him when the recital was over.
Okay. And was his demeanor any different each of those 3 times that you spoke to him?
No, the last time I spoke to him,
Correct. That'll stand. Next question.
Was his demeanor any different the 3rd time that you spoke to him as opposed to the first 2 times?
no.
Oh, you can answer the question.
Pardon me?
The answer was no to that question?
Yes, I said no.
Thank you.
Did you have a conversation with the defendant the 3rd time that you spoke to him?
Yes, I did.
And what was that conversation?
I was talking about how great the girls were and what a great job Sydney did, and Taylor, my daughter. And I think I mentioned that my husband had been taking videos of the girls and that we had taken close-ups of Sydney. And weren't they great and darling? And he just looked at me and said, uh-huh.
And that was it?
That was it. I mean, nothing else.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Cochran?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Garvey. Now, speaking of videos, your husband took some videos of that afternoon?
He
Is that
did.
correct? And have you ever seen a video of Mr. Simpson shortly after this recital interacting with the Brown family and with his son, Justin?
I did.
And when did you see that video?
I saw it on Friday.
And where did you see it?
I saw it in the offices upstairs.
In the DA's office upstairs here?
I did.
Who showed that video to you?
Well, when I walked in, I didn't know I was coming down here Friday, and when I walked in to the witness coordinators, it was on her TV.
Well, who was the witness coordinator?
Patty Fairbanks.
And she was showing this particular video?
Not to me. I mean, I think there was somebody else that works in there watching it.
Who was she showing it to that you know?
I don't know.
All right, well, I want to show you a video now, and you can tell us whether or not it's the same video they were showing up on Friday in the DA's office, okay, when you walked in? All right. What number is this for the record, Mr. Beck? On 1003, Your Honor, I'd like to, since it's 1002, I'd ask this witness to take a look at this video.
All right, Mrs. Garvey, there's a monitor right to your right hand, right there.
Yes, it is.
There, depicted there. Who is that?
Ron Fishman?
Is that Dr. Ron Fishman?
Yes, sir.
He's married to Cora Fishman?
That's correct.
You recognize those people there? Stop it there, Mr. Douglas. You recognize those people depicted there?
Yes.
Who do you see depicted there?
I see O.J. kissing Nicole's mom, or her mom kissing him, and her dad and Denise, her sister.
All right. By the way, you can continue on, Mr. Douglas. It's the same video that you saw on Friday up in the DA's office?
I did.
Same video?
Yes, I did.
All right. Who's that with O.J.? Is that Dr. Fishman?
Yes, sir.
And who's that who's just jumped up in Mr. Simpson's arm?
Justin.
That's his son?
Yes.
Now, see that smile on Mr. Simpson's face there?
Yes, sir.
Is that the way you normally saw him?
Yes,
Happy,
sir.
as you described?
Yes, sir.
Charismatic?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Well,
But he looks happy.
You look happy in that photograph you did?
Yes.
And is that the way, and those are some of the people who were at that concert we've been talking about here?
Yes, sir.
Is that right, Ms. Garvey? All right, now, when you came in the room in the DA's office on Friday, what time of day was that, by the way?
It was about 5 o'clock.
And did you talk to one of the deputy district attorneys?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
No.
Friday. I
On
got
Friday.
here, I don't know, 1 o'clock?
All right, and did you, after you saw this tape, you saw it with Ms. Fairbanks, did you?
Yes.
Did you then have occasion to speak to one of the deputy district attorneys assigned to this case?
No, I did not.
You didn't talk to him at all that day?
No, I did not.
You just came down here on your own?
Well, I was called to come down.
All right. And you just waited for a while?
I waited, yes, and they sent me home.
Right now, I want to show you another photograph. At this point, we'll put it on the Elmo, the number. Defendant's 1003. Did you see while you were at that concert on June 12th, 1994, at some point, you see Sydney Simpson?
Oh, yes.
And do you recognize the little costume she's wearing there?
Oh, yes.
And did you see her father present her with some flowers on that day?
I did not.
You weren't present when that happened?
I was not, no.
That's, you're looking at the photograph, however. You recognize O.J. Simpson, do you not?
Yes, I do.
And you recognize Sydney? Mm-hmm. All right. Now, you spoke with the district in the DA's office back on September 6, 1994, at about 11:30. You were interviewed by Detectives Van Adder and Lang, and Marcia Clark was present. Isn't that correct? Mm-hmm. At that time, you gave them a statement about what you had seen on June 12, 1994. Isn't that correct? And you were striving to be as accurate as you could at that particular time. Is that right?
Yes.
You got to answer out loud.
I'm sorry, yes.
All right. And you described for Van Adder, Lang, and Miss Marcia Clark that as Mr. Simpson sat in that last row, he appeared to be deeply engrossed in conversation with Dr. Ron Fishman. Isn't that correct?
I think my husband said that.
Well, were you present?
I was.
And you saw that yourself, did you not?
Yes.
In other words, you saw Mr. Simpson talking or having a conversation with Dr. Fishman. Is that right?
No, when we were walking into the recital originally, that's when we saw them talking.
All right. Well, I'm just asking you. You saw them talking, did you not?
Yes.
And that was the same Ron Fishman we just saw in the video.
Yes. I think I said that he was talking to, I don't know if it was Ron that he was talking to. It was somebody in a sweatsuit, I think. I don't think he had that outfit on. So it may not have been him.
All right. Would it be helpful to you if I were able to show you what your statement was back in
Sure.
September 6, 1994?
Yes.
All right. May I put you on? Counsel. I'd like to place this before you and ask you to, if you would, to read this to yourself, first of all, if you would. Read this paragraph.
Where?
From here to here, this paragraph.
The Garveys both stated no?
To yourself?
Oh, to myself? I'm sorry.
To yourself.
Yes.
All right, you read that?
Yes.
Does that tend to refresh your recollection about what you indicated to Van Adder and Lang back September 6, 1994?
Well, I didn't say that I saw him in conversation with Ron when he was seated in that last row.
The question is, did that refresh your recollection reading that?
Oh, sure, yes.
Okay, so listen to my question,
Okay.
please. And you indicated in that conversation that Mr. Simpson appeared to be deeply engrossed in a conversation with Dr. Ron Fishman at some time during the evening. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the same Ron Fishman we just saw in the video. Is that correct?
I guess so, yes.
What, is there two Ron Fishmans?
No, but I don't remember him wearing that outfit, so maybe I could have been wrong. Maybe I didn't, maybe when I gave that statement, he may have been talking to somebody else and I may have just thought it was him. I don't know, because I don't remember him wearing that.
All right. Well, you also described to the district attorney's office he's wearing a gray cardigan sweater also. Isn't that correct?
OJ.
Yes, but he's wearing black, wasn't he?
Well, I told him it was a dark gray. I was very specific.
All right,
And I
well-
told him the belt, but that's not in there either.
When you, I presume they wrote down what you were saying, did they not?
Well, they didn't exactly write down everything I said.
I mean, they got it wrong?
Well, maybe a little bit.
Okay. All right. Now, I want you to search your memory, ma'am.
Okay.
Do you recall that sometime when you came in that auditorium, you saw Mr. O.J. Simpson deeply engrossed in conversation with Dr. Ron Fishman that particular evening?
That, yes.
Okay. Now, you were there, as I understand it, to see your daughter, who was
Yes.
also performing. Is that correct? And because your daughter was toward the end of the program at some point, you left. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And let's tell the court and jury, how long did this concert last, this recital last, from beginning to end?
I would say about 2 hours and 15 minutes, approximately.
So when you first walked in, what time of evening was it?
It was 5 o'clock.
And so that your best recollection is that it lasted until about 7:15?
Yes.
And of that 2 hours and 15 minutes, ma'am, what time were you out of the auditorium? Did you leave and go back home?
I guess I left at about 5:30 and came back around 6:30.
So of the 2 hours and 15 minutes, you were gone perhaps an hour. And you can't tell us what went on during that hour, is that
No,
correct?
I cannot.
All right. Now, do you know how long this conversation lasted between
People in LA
Mr. O.J.
do.
Simpson and Dr. Ron Fishman?
No, sir.
Now, you described for the court and jury that at some point you came over and you addressed Mr. Simpson because you knew him, is that correct?
That's correct.
And would I be correct in assuming that you considered him a friend, is that correct?
An acquaintance.
All right, as an acquaintance, and so you came over to him, however, to speak, isn't that
I
correct?
did.
All right, so you spoke to this acquaintance, and he didn't seem to be very responsive to the time you were talking to him.
No.
Was there anyone else seated beside him at the time that you were talking to him?
As I was leaving, I'm
At
sorry.
the time when you came over to speak to him, and you said he seemed kind of non-responsive, was he seated with anybody else in that row?
I believe there was someone next to him.
And could that have been Dr. Ron Fishman?
I don't know.
Did he seem to you to be tired that evening, Mr. Simpson?
No.
Had you ever seen him tired before?
I don't know.
You don't know that, do
I
you?
don't remember.
All right.
I guess not. I don't know.
You don't know, do you?
No, I don't know.
All right. So at any rate, and you can't tell us who he was seated next to when you were talking to him.
I cannot. It was dark.
It was dark inside the recital?
Yes, it was.
At this time, were children performing on the stage at this point?
Yes, it was. They were.
And so,
Well,
let's,
it was in between, actually.
all right, but let's see. You came over to him after the recital had started.
That's correct.
Someone is seated next to him. You can't tell us whom.
That's correct.
It's dark inside the place.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And when you say dark, I presume there's just some lighting enough so that you can see the stage. Is that right?
Yes.
And this conversation was, I presume, rather brief, was it not?
Very brief.
All right. And then you went on, I presume, to your seat. Is that correct?
No, I left.
Okay, this is about 5:30 when you were leaving.
No, yes, that's correct.
So as near as you could tell, was Mr. Simpson there when you arrived?
I did not look for him. No.
All right.
I
But
don't know.
when you first looked up, he was already there. Isn't that correct?
When I came back,
Oh, at any time. When you saw Mr. Simpson, he was inside the recital. Isn't that correct?
when I was leaving, I saw him inside the recital.
Okay. And you don't know what time he got there, do you?
Oh, yes. I mean, well, I don't know when he got there. I saw him at 5 o'clock when I arrived. He had arrived. He was in there.
Was he
waiting
there?
to sit down.
Or was he there already before you came?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was the question. All right.
Oh, it was?
Okay,
I'm
no
sorry.
problem. It's all right. So then you left at 5:30. He was still there, right?
That's correct.
You don't know what happened between 5:30 and 6:30, right?
No.
And you came back at 6:30,
Yes.
right? And when you came back, you saw your daughter perform, right?
That's correct.
And did you see Mr. Simpson at or near the end of that
Do it.
concert?
I
Around
did.
7:15.
That's right.
He was still there, right?
That's right.
All right. You described in response to one of Mr. Darden's questions that normally Mr. Simpson seemed to be a kind, happy person, very charismatic, and that's how he always seemed to you. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And when you saw him at the end of that video there, he seemed to you to be kind and happy. Did he not?
Yes. Yes, he did.
Like he always does. Isn't that right?
That's right.
And when you saw this up in the DA's office on Friday, didn't you think, gee, that O.J. Simpson looked pretty kind and happy at that point? Didn't you think that?
Well, what I really thought was that was an amazing change.
Is that what you thought?
I really did.
Now, do you see that's the exact same date? You understand
I know,
that?
that's right. It amazes me.
Have you ever been at a place and been in a conversation with someone, someone comes up and interrupts you and you don't give them full attention? Ever happened to you?
Sure.
And then after you finish that conversation, you go on and your usual happy-go-lucky self after that. Ever happened to you?
Well, I don't know. I don't remember. But
In your own life, isn't it true that it's difficult to take something out of context in somebody's life in a particular afternoon? Would you agree isn't that, let me finish, wouldn't you agree that's a little difficult?
Argumentative.
Maybe I can rephrase it.
Please.
We now know that at some point during that recital that afternoon, Mr. Simpson seemed his normal self, don't we?
yes.
And you're telling us that inside, in the dark, while the recital was going on at some point, he seemed to you to be kind of vacant. Is that the word you used?
Well, he was in the light when I originally spoke to him and had my first impression formed.
All right, but you said he seemed vacant at some point today, did you not?
Yes.
And when you describe this, would you agree with me that the events of June 12th were fresher in your mind back in September 6th than they are now?
No.
You're one of those people where your memory gets better the longer time goes by?
No.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. When you described Mr. Simpson to Ms. Clark and to Detectives Van Adder and Lang, did you describe him, she described Simpson as appearing to be preoccupied and depressed? Did you describe it that way?
I think I felt that.
All right, and was that accurate?
I think that's probably, yeah, maybe.
You never said anything about him being angry, did you?
Oh, yes, I think I did.
Did you read the statement? Did you ever
I
see
did read
them?
it, yes.
Did they ever put that down?
I don't, well, now that I've just read it, it was not there.
Let me approach. Would you like to see it again?
Yes, please.
Okay, may I approach you?
You may.
And please read this to yourself.
Okay. Yes.
All right. And having read this particular, it's the third paragraph, well, fourth paragraph, page 123C, you see any place in there where Detectives Lang, Van Adder, or Miss Clark have noted where you told them anything about Mr. Simpson being angry that afternoon?
No.
But you do see where you said he was preoccupied and depressed, right?
Yes.
And you also told them, did you not, that you never observed Mr. Simpson speak to anyone except Ron Fishman?
That's correct.
All right, and you saw the video, so you know he spoke to other people now, don't you?
That's correct.
And you described a period of time when you were leaving the recital. And so you were there at the end of the recital about 7:15. Did you see Mr. Simpson at that time also?
When I left?
Yes, when you were
Yes,
leaving.
I did.
Was he outside?
No?
Was he still inside?
Yes.
So you came out before he did?
That's correct.
Were you present when he presented those flowers to his daughter?
I was not.
You responded to, and strike that, in one of your bits of conversation, you said you'd had your baby. You'd had a baby at that time?
Yes.
And Mr. Simpson said Nick had told him that, and was that the name he referred to his ex-wife as, Nicole?
I don't know. I'd never heard him say that before.
When he said Nick, you didn't know what he was talking about?
Oh, I knew what he was talking about. But I'd never heard him call her Nick.
So when he said Nick, you knew he was talking about Nicole, did you
Oh,
know?
I did, yes.
Did you, by the way, speak with Dr. Ron Fishman that evening?
I don't believe so.
Do you know him?
I have met him, yes.
And you had met him prior to June 12th, 1994?
Yes.
All right. And you left then the Paul Revere Middle School at about 7:15 that afternoon, right?
That's correct.
And the last time you saw Mr. Simpson that evening when he was at Paul Revere, was it about that same time, 7:15, a little before?
Yes.
And did you ever see him outside, like you saw him in the video smiling?
No, I didn't.
I have nothing further to this witness at this point, Your Honor.
Mr. Darden, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Gardner, the photograph up on the screen now. You see the defendant's left hand?
Yes.
Photograph up on the screen now. You see the defendant's left hand?
Yes.
You don't see any cuts on his index finger or on any finger, do you?
No.
You were also interviewed by members of the DA's office in October of last year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was that interview tape recorded?
I believe so.
And was it a detailed interview?
Very.
Okay. Was it more detailed than the interview you had with the LAPD?
Yes, it was.
And that interview was transcribed as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you told the DA staff in October that the defendant appeared mad, didn't you?
About the further foundation.
What further foundation is necessary?
I'm not going to tell him, Your Honor. Maybe you could.
Hold on. All right, with the court reporter, please. All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Darden?
Thank you, Your Honor. And you were interviewed by the DA staff on October 27, 1994. Is that correct?
Yes.
And isn't it true that you told us on that date, and I'm referring court and counsel to page 19 of the transcript of that interview. Shall I start on line 21?
Yes.
Page 19. Didn't you tell us at line 21? You ready, Mr. Cochran? Whoa, whoa.
Is there an objection?
Yes, the objection.
All right. Mr. Darden, if you just hold on a second.
Do you recall being concerned about the defendant when you saw his demeanor?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, you told that to the DA investigators back in October, didn't you?
I did.
And you wondered why he appeared the way he appeared at the time.
I did.
And in fact, you told the DA investigators, and I quote from line 22 of page 19, but then I thought, no, he's mad. I mean, he couldn't even answer some questions. Hi, how are you? Do you remember telling that to the DA investigators?
I do.
Okay. You concluded that he was mad when you saw him, didn't you?
Yes.
And were you concerned at all that maybe you did something to upset him?
Well, I think I initially personalized it, but knew that that couldn't be the case.
Did you ask the defendant if he was upset?
I didn't.
Didn't you tell the defendant to go outside and take a walk?
No.
Let me ask you about something you just told Mr. Cochran, but that he glossed over.
Mr. Darden. Mr. Darden, please.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I apologize. I'm sorry, Mr. Cochran. I apologize. May I proceed, Your Honor? Mrs. Garvey, a moment ago, did you indicate to us and to counsel that there was an amazing change between the defendant's demeanor at the recital or during the recital and his demeanor after the recital?
Yes.
And you used the word amazing, is that correct?
Yes.
Could you tell us what you meant by that, please?
Is that an objection? Thank you. Overruled.
Thank you. You may answer the question.
Well, I mean, he was, in my opinion, completely different than I'd ever seen him, either as a fan or someone that knew him personally. And to see that videotape, it was amazing. I mean, amazing difference. But I guess that's why he's a spokesman. I mean, he's...
Thank you. Next. The conclusion, that's why he's a spokesman, is stricken as being non-responsive to the question. Juries to disregard that portion of the answer. Mr. Darden, next question.
Okay. You also indicated that the auditorium was dark once the program began.
Yes.
But was it so dark that you couldn't see the defendant or locate him in the crowd and walk over to him and talk with him?
Oh, no, I recognized him.
So you could see that well?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Madam Reporter, how's your paper supply? That's all you have, Mr. Cochran. 2 minutes.
Let's see, I'll speak faster than usual then, so we'll get it done. I'm only kidding.
I also have to change court reporters.
Certainly, Your Honor. How many times did you speak with the district attorney's office in connection with this case prior to your testimony here today?
I believe I was down here twice, and I think they sent a special investigator to my house once or twice.
And did you give statements each time they came out and talked with you?
I talked to them. Is that what, I mean, I see a formal statement that you showed me. I've never seen another one other than that.
All right. Now, you don't have any question in your mind, do you, ma'am, that the video that we showed you and showed the jury was O.J. Simpson at the conclusion of that particular recital?
That's correct, it was him.
Isn't it great we have video? Isn't that great?
That's correct.
And, you know, we can actually see how the person looked, can't we?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right, anything more, Mr. Darden?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mrs. Garvey, that concludes your testimony for this afternoon. Please don't discuss your testimony with anybody else except for the attorneys till the trial is over. Do you understand the order?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. All right, you're excused. All right, counsel, I need to take a court reporter recess at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be a 15-minute recess. Please remember my admonition to you, don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case. We're still in session, ladies and gentlemen. Or allow anybody to talk to you about the case. I ask you to step back into the jury room, please.
Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please be seated and state and spell your first and last name for the record.
Cynthia, Cynthia, Cheyenne, Shahian.
Ms. Cheyenne, you were a close friend to Nicole Brown, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Did you visit her on June 7, 1994?
Tuesday morning, yes, I did.
And why did you go to her home that day and at that time?
Nicole and I were going to jog, take a morning run.
Okay, you're going to have to raise your voice so everyone can hear you. Okay, but you're going over to go jogging?
Yes,
Is that something that you and Nicole did often?
yes, we did.
Let me show you a single-page document dated June 6, 1994, and it is signed O.J. May it be marked Peoples 25 for identification?
All right, People's 25.
Okay, and I've shown this to defense counsel, Your Honor. Showing you Peoples 25 for identification. You recognize this letter?
Yes, I do.
When was the first time that you saw this letter?
On Tuesday morning, when I arrived at Nicole's condo on Bundy.
Can you put the letter up on the Alamo, Your Honor?
Which letter is this?
Pardon?
Which letter is this? I'm sorry.
Just a moment, sir.
Which letter is this?
This is the letter from dated June 6, 1994, from O.J. Simpson Enterprises, where he mentions the change in their
Got it.
circumstances.
All right. Around your right hand there.
Okay. This is the letter that you saw at Nicole Brown's house on June 7.
Yes, I did.
And where physically was the letter located the first time you saw it?
When you entered Nicole's kitchen, on the left-hand side, there was a granite a counter, and she had it with some other pieces of paper, and she took it out to
Granite.
show me.
A grand tight counter.
Nicole Brown showed you this letter?
Yes, she did.
And what was her demeanor when she showed you this letter?
She was devastated. She was angry. She was upset. She was horrified.
Can I just pull the microphone a little bit closer to you? Great, thank you.
Okay. So she was devastated, angry, upset.
Ask another question.
Did she say anything at that time? Can we approach her?
Sure.
Cheyenne, what was Nicole Brown's demeanor when you first saw her that morning?
Overruled.
What was Nicole Brown's demeanor the first time you saw her that morning?
When she spoke of the letter,
Well,
normal, which is, always greets nicely and pleased to see.
okay. But at some point her demeanor changed, is that correct?
When we... Yes.
Who's the judge here?
I am. Next question.
And this change in Nicole Brown's demeanor, did that happen simultaneous with her retrieving that letter?
Yes, it did.
And did she say something to you at that time?
Sustain.
Did she say something to you at that time?
You can say yes or no. Did she say something to you?
Yes.
Next question.
And was she upset?
Yes.
And the comment she made to you, was it regarding the letter?
Sustain.
Can we reapproach sidebar, Your Honor?
Sure. Mr. Darden.
Mr. Fairlow, could you focus on the first 3 lines of the letter, the narrative portion of the letter?
Can you, it's too large.
A little wide here.
Bring it down.
Is that as good as you can do? Ms. Cheyenne, did you see where the letter indicates something about a change in circumstances?
Yes.
Did you discuss the content of the letter with Nicole Brown?
Did I?
Yes.
Yes.
And was it during your discussion with her of the content of that letter that she seemed devastated, upset, and horrified?
Sustain. 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 You're arguing your objection as well, Mr. Carpenter. Sustain.
Looking down at the base or the bottom of the letter, you see the words OJ there?
Yes.
Okay. This is the letter you saw in Nicole Brown's possession on June 7th, is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
The jury have an opportunity to read the letter, Your Honor.
Other than that, I have no further questions.
Let's give the jury an opportunity to finish reading the letter. All right, Mr. Cochran.
Thank you very kindly. Good afternoon, Ms. Sheehan.
Afternoon.
With regard to this letter, the letter that's now on the board, did you read the letter that day, or have you read it since that time?
I read it that morning, yes.
Okay, and you've read it since that time also?
Just here.
Yes, you read it here?
Yes.
All right. And it starts off there in the first sentence there, on advice of legal counsel. Were you...
The letter speaks for itself.
I have a
Overruled.
question I'm about to ask if I can be permitted to give. Ask it. Thank you, Your Honor. On advice of legal counsel, then he goes on to make a statement. Were you aware that Leroy B. Taft, the person who CC'd on this letter, Esquire, was Mr. Simpson's business lawyer back in June of 1994?
Yes, I was.
And you're aware he'd been his business lawyer for some 20-plus years before that time?
Yes, I knew that.
And, Cheyenne, were you also aware that Marvin Goodfriend was his CPA back at that time and had been for some time before?
No, I did not know who
You didn't know who
CPAs
that
was, no.
All right. But both of the names, Leroy B. Taft, Esquire, and Marvin Goodfriend, were at the bottom as having been CC'd?
I do remember.
Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And you recall the third paragraph wherein there's an indication that Mr. Simpson cannot take part in any course of action that might intentionally or unintentionally be misleading to the Internal Revenue Service or the California Franchise Tax Board? You recall reading that at some point on that date? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Redirect.
Ms. Cheyenne, you see in line 2 where it says, I am compelled to put you on written notice?
Yes.
See that part?
Yes.
You see the part above that where it says, because of the change in our circumstances?
Yes.
Was there a change in the circumstances between Leroy Taft and Nicole Brown? that you know of?
That person is a definite, uncertain, unintelligible.
Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Was there a change in the circumstances in the relationship between Nicole Brown and Leroy Taft?
No?
Was there a change in circumstances in terms of the relationship between the defendant and Nicole Brown?
Yes?
You saw Nicole Brown almost every day, is that correct?
Not every day. We at least once or twice a week in 1994.
What was the change in their relationship? That is, the defendants and Nicole's.
Without further foundation, not yet. This is improper re-examination further.
Overruled.
What was the change in their relationship?
The change was that they were not together as a couple.
And did that change occur a few weeks of Nicole Brown's death?
Jeffrey, without further foundation. Legal suggestion.
What's the date of the letter? I'm sorry.
June 6, 1994.
All right, objections overruled.
Did that change in their circumstances occur within a few weeks of Nicole's death?
Yes, it did.
That's all I have.
Cochran?
I have nothing further. Maybe excuse me.
All right. Ma'am, please don't discuss your testimony with anybody else except for the lawyers on the case. That order is in effect till the end of the trial. Do you understand the order? All right, thank you very much for coming in.
Don't discuss your testimony. What testimony?
All right, Mr. Darden, do you have any of the witnesses available this afternoon?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, one of the hardest jobs of a trial attorney in any case is to determine how long a witness's testimony is going to take and how long the cross-examination will take by the other side. And oftentimes we miscalculate on those. Apparently the prosecution does not have any further witnesses to present this afternoon, so we're going to take our recess at this time. Sometimes we'll have more than enough witnesses, and sometimes we won't have enough. It all depends on the day. Please remember my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't let anybody talk to you about the case. Don't perform any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. All right? Have a pleasant evening tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. All right.
Thank you.
You can go.
Well, I thought it worked quite well with my witness list, didn't it?
Well, you ran out.
Yeah, until I ran out, but they knew I was going to run out. The court earlier ordered the defense to take a look at the ESPN tape. Would the court order them to look at the tape before they leave today? The entire 30-minute tape, if that's what they want to do? So that I can finally perhaps play it in front of a jury in this case?
All right, Mr. Cochran, you'll take the opportunity this evening to look at it.
If I had time to do that, yes, I'll be more than happy to.
Said another thing, Judge. If Mr. Cochran keeps picking on me,
You got a comment, Dave?
I know he loves me. I know he loves me like a son, but I'm getting tired of this stepdaddy.
Judge, I'm more than happy. I'll deal with him later on, Your Honor. But I'm glad to I'm glad to watch the video. I haven't had a chance yet, but if he has it, you have the entire tape here?
I gave you a copy of this morning.
Okay, yeah, but I don't have a VCR in my briefcase. But I will watch it this evening, and I'll call Mr. Darden.
All right.
I'm playing it tomorrow. That's all I have to say.
Your Honor, I have some exhibits to show to counsel that I'd like to use tomorrow. And
All right,
I
this is
also...
the nature of a show and tell.
That's right.
All right, why don't you show them to counsel?
I will. And I'm just surprised in court till we have it on the record that I'm doing that.
All right.
Also, I've asked counsel to permit me to add one witness to the list of witnesses that will be coming up tomorrow and the next day. She's a very brief witness. She is not really precipient to anything, but she does kind of explain how the officers got there, and counsel's aware of her statement. It's very, very brief. Her name is Elsie Tistaert, Tistaert. I believe counsel indicated that there would be no objection to her addition, if I haven't misstated.
I reminded Mr. Clark again that wouldn't object to that. I remind him this may come up on our side at some point. want to remember that, too.
And if it's a witness of this minor significance, then we won't.
All right.
Does the court want to see the exhibits?
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't you show them to counsel, and if there's any objection, then I'm available to rule on any objection.
We also have the telestrator that we wanted to show to the court and counsel.
It's a point maker.
It's a point maker.
All right, and what are those, Ms. Clark?
These are photographs. May I have one now?
Sure.
Yes, counsel, that there will be, those are
Clark,
Small.
why don't you address so the court can hear our
I'm sorry.
comments?
Those are the 8x10s that I've just shown to council. They will be in big boards. Yes. Yeah. That's just a small representation of them. And there will be icons on the map of the Bundy area. Icons showing where everybody lived.
Well, can I see those in the morning? I'm trying to visualize
It's just little houses.
kind of a spatial breakdown. You can see the location.
Yeah, here's an example. This is, yeah, it's not too easy to see, but yeah. We're gonna have
No,
to-
and I know how to shovel.
Time, but what can I say?
But it won't say very much, and it'll be very brief. And the people that will identify these photographs, Your Honor, will be non-relatives. They will be people from the Mezzaluna restaurant who saw them on that night. And so these are the photographs that the people propose to use of the victims.
All right. Any comments, objections to these exhibits, Mr. Cochran?
No, not at this point, Your Honor. I'd like to reserve overnight. But we're willing to stipulate to the photographs. The problem we have with the photographs is there's been so much crying in this
Anthony, it sounds like you're trying to hit a Guinness Book record tonight, and don't do that.
case that we've tried to minimize this so the case can be solved on the basis of the facts, not all the tears. But the counsel assures me that these will be from some people who are not related, but we will stipulate that those are the individuals in life. And there's no question that Nicole Brown Simpson and Mr. Ron Goldman are the victims in this case. No question about that. So that we're clear. And maybe Ms. Clark will think about that overnight and save some time.
But I think maybe perhaps there's some other use that they were at the Mezzaluna and they identify these persons as having been there. If that's the offer rather than the identity of the victims, that's a different purpose than the normal stipulation to the identity of the victims. So,
And
all
that's why
right,
they're being identified by those particular people. So.
all right.
I'm going to try and have everything, all of the exhibits that I intend to use, ready to show counsel tomorrow, and that should be the balance of the witnesses that I'll be calling for the next week or so.
All right. All right, Ms. Clark. Ms. Clark, are we about to start examining the events of June the 12th in the mid-PM hours?
Yes, we are, Your Honor. We'll begin tomorrow with the witnesses from the Mezzaluna restaurant and proceed then through the witnesses who heard dogs barking and move into the first officers at the crime scene. Hard for me to know how long counsel will take on cross-examination of any of these particular witnesses. I can anticipate certain things, but it's real hard to know for sure. But it's probably a fair estimate that we would get to a jury view on Thursday. I have an itinerary that has been typed up, and I intend to submit it to the
Field
court
trip.
with some ideas
Field
for
trip.
directions to the jury so that they will be able to understand where the evidence was located.
We don't get to go with them on their field trip, but I'm still excited that they get to take a field trip.
And we should probably broach that tomorrow.
I'd like a list, Your Honor. I think Ms. Clark said she'd give us a list. We want to-
Right, I had asked for an itinerary, and obviously because of the logistics involved in a jury scene view, I need a little more lead time than, oh, by the way, let's do it Thursday. All right, let me talk to counsel without the court report. Counsel, is there anything else we need to put on the record before we take our recess of the afternoon? Mr. Cochran? Ms. Clark?
Did you want to look at the televator, Your Honor?
Oh, you want to, yeah, but also, are we going to take the issue of...
Anthony, I said don't try for the Guinness Book record. Guinness Book record.
I assume so, but that depends. Mr. Blazier indicated that he was going to file something with me either late this afternoon or first thing tomorrow morning. If it's first thing tomorrow morning, then I've got to obviously take some time to read what it is he submits. I don't know. So I hope to get this resolved, though, tomorrow, because we need to get this stuff on its way. Okay.
Your Honor, I stayed over the lunch hour while they were setting up this piece of equipment. I've inspected it. We don't have any objection to its use. It was introduced to America by John Madden and is generally used to second-guess the quarterback. I was wondering if that's what the prosecution is going to use it for in this case.
All right. All right, we'll stand in recess then. The court will observe a demonstration of that, and we'll see if there's any problem with it. All right, we're in recess. Thank you. Mr. Simpson is again present before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Douglas, Mr. Bailey, people represented by Ms. Clark, Mr. Darden. The jury is not present. Counsel, is there anything else that we need to take up before we invite the jurors to join us?
Yes, Your Honor. The court pleases.
Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this concerns the videotape that the defense was given a copy of only yesterday from the prosecution, which clearly turned out to be a piece of very favorable evidence to Mr. Simpson's defense. As the court is well aware,
Which videotape are we talking about here?
we're talking about the recital videotape, Your Honor.
All right.
As the court is well aware, the case of Brady versus Maryland obligates not only the district attorney's office, but also its agents in the Los Angeles Police Department to immediately turn over information or evidence that is favorable to the accused. In this instance, Your Honor, we happened to learn from the person who created that tape, a Mr. Scott Kennedy, only last week of its existence, and we're able to see it for the first time only last Friday when we were able to receive a copy directly from Mr. Kennedy. Your Honor, we had raised the issue of this tape in court on Thursday, and both Mr. Darden and Ms. Clark claimed to have had no knowledge of its existence, but that they would check into it. We learned from the testimony of Candace Garvey that on Friday afternoon, this same copy of this tape was shown to her, and she had a chance to preview it in preparation for her testimony. Kennedy claimed, Your Honor, that he had sent a copy of the tape to the prosecution back in July. And since early July, we had repeatedly requested any Brady-type material and were assured that there was none, or that that which was in their possession had been given over. Your Honor, 2 weeks ago, I stood before this court at this podium, and I was lambasted for conduct that was termed the most egregious in the history of jurisprudence. I choose not to reach into my bag of hyperbole and whack the prosecution over the head with it for their conduct, but my indignation is every bit as strong and severe. And I worry, Your Honor. I've practiced criminal law for 15 years, and this has indeed happened in other cases where there has been failure to turn over Brady type of material. So it's not new to me, Your Honor. But depending on the explanation that the people would offer for its nondisclosure until now, I think that there is the supreme risk for there to be due process violations of a constitutional dimension. And I urge the court to conduct an official inquiry into the circumstances of this tape's coming into the possession of the people, how it was that...
Who's going to rebut? Marcia? Darden? Who's going to rebut this? I'm guessing Marcia. I'm going with Marcia today.
They were in possession of it for 7 months and did not either realize that it was Brady or failed to turn it over to the defense. And most importantly, what sorts of mechanisms have now been in place to make sure that the people have disgorged their files of all Brady-type material, and what sorts of new mechanisms are now in place to assure that there will not be a repeat occurrence of this problem. Your Honor, I am accepting of the notion that such an inquiry can be done in camera, but I do think it very important that there be certain explanations brought to this court's attention. When the tape was first received, who had possession of it, how did they learn of its existence only after we mentioned it in open court, and as I said earlier, what is going to be done to make sure that there are not other Brady-type materials in the people's possession, and what mechanisms will assure that there will not be a repeat occurrence of this. As the court is aware, Brady requires the people to turn over not only evidence that is favorable on the issue of guilt or punishment, but it also requires the turning over of evidence that may reflect on the credibility of material witnesses. Indeed, Your Honor, commentators have noted that as it relates to Brady material, the far better practice of the prosecution is to resolve any doubtful questions in favor of disclosure. There are, Your Honor, witnesses in this case that are very material, and I remember the words of Mr. Simpson as he returned back to lockup last night, which kind of echoed the words of Rodney King, "Thank goodness for videos." I wonder how Mr. Simpson's defense and his cross-examination of both Mrs. Garvey and Denise Brown would have been adversely affected had those tapes not been turned over to us when they were, because we would have been left with the image of a brooding, vacant O.J. Simpson rather than a smiling, happy-go-lucky man. And indeed, Your Honor, that tape was able to clearly illuminate the true facts of that day and are very central to our case. On those comments, Your Honor, I'll submit the matter.
Any comment from the people?
I was wrong.
I can't believe that Mr. Douglas is still whining about the sanctions the court imposed a couple of weeks ago as a result of his own misconduct regarding the issue of discovery. I cannot speak to the issue of when the tape came into the possession of the prosecution because I was not a part of the prosecution team in this matter, apparently, when the tape came into our possession. But when Mr. Cochran brought it to our...
Rough idea when that was?
Do I have a rough idea when that was?
Yeah.
No. I'm sure it's been up there a while, though. But when it came into our possession, I don't know. When Mr. Cochran brought it to our attention, then we went in search of that particular tape. We have some 400 videotapes upstairs, and that happened to be one of them, unfortunately. I would simply like to point out that obviously we were not hiding the tape. The fact of the tape's existence apparently was known to others outside the DA's office, so why would we hide it? It's a mistake. Just another innocent mistake in a situation where you have 30,000 pages of discovery and hundreds of videotapes. It happens.
Is this videotape logged in any way, in any of the logs that was disclosed to the defense?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Right.
In fact, it wasn't disclosed in any log provided to Deputy DA Christopher Darden, for that matter, Your Honor.
Well, then let's address Mr. Douglas's request that how are we assured that everything that is Brady versus Maryland type material has been identified and disgorged by the prosecution?
Well, I am confident that every piece of paper and every audio tape that we're required to turn over has been turned over. And I'm confident now that every videotape we're required to turn over has been turned over. As for Mr. Douglas's characterization of the tape as being somehow exculpatory, I disagree. I think that the demeanor and appearance of the defendant in that videotape is nothing like I've ever seen of the defendant. It doesn't even look like him. It looks like an entirely different person. And that, of course, is an issue for the jury to resolve. But I don't think there are any other problems with our discovery. I didn't have a chance to write out 5 or 6, pages of commentary for this morning's proceedings like Mr. Douglas did.
I'm just happy, Your Honor, that Mr. Darden is not sitting on this jury. I think, Your Honor, it's interesting how everything that they do is innocent and everything that we do is misconduct. But I'm not going to dwell on that. What I think
that's
the
true, I
important
think.
thing is, Your Honor, is that there was a problem. Just how there was a problem with Marianne Gertjes and a statement, there was a problem apparently with the videotape in the people's possession since last July. And certainly I think that there has not been adequate explanation for the problem, and there needs to be in-camera and official inquiry. That's all that I ask.
Thank you, counsel. All right, just so it's clear, the court orders the prosecution to turn over any material that is defined by Brady versus Maryland. And I will conduct a later inquiry as to date and time as to the how this tape came into existence, when it was transmitted, and whether or not there is any failure to effectively evaluate.
I should indicate that Mr. Hodgman may be the best person to convey that information to the court, and when he returns, we will inquire.
When will
of him.
Mr. Hodgman be available again?
4 more months.
I'm not sure. I have no final word on that issue yet.
Okay.
Not on another issue, but for the record, we have asked the prosecution to return to us 12 videotapes taken from the defendant's home, and we'd like that done expeditiously. They may be useful in the case.
We've already assured Mr. Bailey that we will examine those videotapes. This is now the 3rd time, and turn them over if they have the evidentiary value.
All right. Let me know if we need to take that up later. All right, anything else before we invite the jury to rejoin us? All right, let's have the jury, please. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies for having kept you waiting so long this morning. There were some very delicate matters that I had to inquire into this morning that took a significant period of time, and I appreciate your indulgence in this matter. It became necessary for me to excuse one of the jurors in this case, and we will now at this time ask Mrs. Robertson to draw the name of an alternate juror to replace
Wow, a juror
that
left.
juror.
Juror number 1489, can you please have a seat in seat number 10?
All right, and let's ask 1492. All right, 1492, let me ask you to stay there, down there in the cheap seats, just until Mrs. Robertson has the time to readjust, and after the lunch hour, we'll change seats. All right. All right, are the people ready to call their next witness? All right, you may proceed.
People call Ms. Tia Gavin.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in a cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please have a seat on the witness stand.
No,
and
they
state
didn't
your
say why.
First and last names for the record.
Tia, T-I-A, Gavin, G-A-V-I-N.
Thank you.
Ms. Clark.
You comfortable?
Yes, Alice.
Ms. Gavin, directing your attention to the date of June the 12th, 1994. As of that date, where were you employed?
At the Mezzaluna Restaurant,
And where is that located?
11750 San Vicente Boulevard.
Your Honor, I have here a map of the area that I've shown to counsel. I'd ask that you mark people's next in order.
People's 26.
Thank you. And showing you this map, if you look at it for a minute comfortably.
You want me to point out the restaurant?
Just a minute. So the jury can see it. No. You could use the pointer and step down.
It's right here where the yellow dot is.
That's the Mezzaluna?
Yes, it is.
All right. Now, as of June the 12th, 1994, can you tell us where approximately you were living in relation to the Mezzaluna?
Northeast on Gorham Avenue.
Can you point to that location roughly? Just
Up around this area?
up above where the map ends?
Yes.
Do you happen to know did you know back then someone by the name of Ron Goldman?
Yes.
And did you know where he lived?
Yes.
Can you show us on this map where that was?
On the same block, right over here.
Approximately where that brown house is?
Yes.
And could you point to that brown house for the jury? And that's the same as shown in the icon there, Ron Goldman?
Yes, it is.
All right, you can have a seat. Thank you. Now, from where you were living at that time, how long would it take you to walk to the Mezzaluna?
2 minutes.
And then Ron Goldman, did he live closer to the Mezzaluna than you?
Yes, he did.
And so, how much closer was it?
About a half a block closer. Probably take him under 2 minutes.
Okay. Now, we're referring to this person named Ron Goldman. I'm going to show you a photograph. That's to be marked People's next in order, People's 27, Your Honor.
People's 27.
Thank you. Showing you People's 27. Can you tell me if you recognize?
Yes. Yes,
that
that's
photograph, and who is that?
it's Ron Goldman.
When did you begin working at the Mezzaluna?
In late November of '93,
And when did you meet Ron Goldman?
when he began work there in late January of '94.
Do you recall when Ron Goldman began working at the Mezzaluna?
I believe it was in January of '94.
94. And is that when you met him?
Yes.
And in what capacity did he work there?
As a waiter,
And in what capacity did you work there?
as a waitress.
Directing your attention to the date of June the 12th, 1994, were you working at the Mezzaluna on that date?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall what time you came in?
5 p.m., around then.
Now, when you work at the restaurant, when you come in, do you have to punch a time clock?
Yes, we do.
And do you have to punch out as well?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay. And is that true for everyone who works in the restaurant?
Yes, everyone except I think the managers, but everyone else.
And you're familiar with your own time card and what that looks like?
Yes.
You want to have your time card, council has seen. I'd ask if you mark People's 28.
All right, People's 28, copy of the time card.
Thank you.
And Ms. Gavin, there's a monitor right there. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, do you recognize what's being shown there, ma'am?
Yes, it's my time card.
I noticed that the name there is Tia Smith.
That's my maiden name.
Okay. That was before you changed it.
Yes.
Okay. And that's your time card for the week ending on June the 12th, 1994?
Yes.
Okay, Jonathan, if you can move it up a little bit and show Sunday on there. There we go. You see where it says Sunday, which would be June the 12th?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And does it show there where you clocked in?
Yes, it does.
And what time does it show?
5:02 p.m.
Okay, we can take it down for now. Now, on the night of June the 12th, did you happen to see Ron Goldman?
Yes.
Was he working there also?
Yes, he was.
And did you discuss who was going to take which table?
Yes. I noticed when I came into work that there was a party of 10 on the reservation book. And so we were trying to decide who would take the table, what stations we'd work. And at that point, Ron saw the name and said, "Oh, it's Nicole Brown. It's a friend of mine."
Okay. Did that seem to be something of big significance to him, or was it just...
No, he didn't know she was coming in, but he just said, "Oh, that's a friend of mine." It didn't seem like a big deal.
Okay. And so who took the table of that was for the party of Nicole Brown?
I did.
Were there any other female waitresses, female servers there that night working in the Mezzaluna?
Yes, I think there was.
And who was that?
Heather Nygren. I think it's Nygren.
Thank you.
So it was you, were you two then the two female servers there that night?
Yes, there were three of us all together.
And so, okay, it was you?
Ron, Heather, and myself.
Just the three of you?
Yes, as waiters.
Now, did you happen to see Nicole Brown and her party arrive that night?
Yes.
About what time did they get there?
They were late for their reservation about 15 or 20 minutes, so I'd say 6:45 or 6:50.
How many people were in her party?
10?
Did it include any children?
Yes. There were 4, I think.
Now, had you ever met her before that night?
No, I had not.
That was the first time.
Yes.
Do you recall what she was wearing?
Yes, a black dress, short black dress with a black blazer over it.
Was it like a halter dress?
Yes.
Do you recall whether there were any older people in the party with her?
Yes, there were. There was a older gentleman and a woman as well.
And were there some women approximately her age as well?
Yes.
Did you happen to notice whether she had a date or an escort? with her?
I think the only gentleman there was her father.
Do you recall what time Nicole and her party left?
Between 8:30 and 9, 8:45-ish.
I'm going to show you a photograph and ask you to just tell me if you recognize who it is, and ask that this photograph be marked People's 29.
People's 29? Yes.
Thank you. Showing you what is now People's 29. Can you tell us if you recognize who that is?
Yes, I can.
Who is that?
Nicole Simpson?
Nicole Brown?
Yes.
Now, do you call, you said between 8:30 and 9 that they left?
Yes.
Did you offer dessert to that party?
Yes, I did.
And did Nicole
Yes.
choose to have dessert?
No, they said that they were taking the children out for ice cream.
Do you recall seeing Ron Goldman leave before you did?
I don't remember seeing him leave through the door, walk out, no.
Did he get off or punch out his time card before you?
Yes, he was off at least a half hour before me.
Was he the first one to get off that night?
Yes, he was.
Can we bring it up again, please? It's showing you now, once again, the time card for Sunday, June the 12th, 1994. Can you tell us if it shows here on your time card what time you clocked out?
9:50?
9:50 or 9:58?
It's hard for me to tell on the monitor because that corner is...
Would it help if I showed you?
Yes, that's an 8, 9:58.
Thank you.
You blew it up, thanks.
Thanks, Chuck. All right, when you clocked out at 9:58, was Ron Goldman still at the restaurant?
No, he wasn't.
Put up the map. All right, this is the same thing that you see in People's 26 up on the screen. You see the yellow dot you previously identified as the location of the Mezzaluna?
Yes?
Now, are you familiar with where the Mezzaluna is in relationship to 875 South Bundy?
Yes.
Can you tell us approximately how far the Mezzaluna is from 875 South Bundy?
Too long, about 2.5, 3 blocks. They're longer blocks, but
If you were to walk that distance, approximately how long would it take you from the Mezzaluna to 875 South Bundy?
under 10 minutes.
And can you also, are there two entrances to the Mezzaluna restaurant?
Yes?
What are they?
There's the front door, which is on San Vicente, and then there's a back door on Gorham that most customers don't use, but it can be used by customers. Rarely.
Bless you. Why don't customers usually use that?
Because there's a patio outside and there's a little gate around it, and there is actually a door to the gate that opens, but most people don't even, it's hard to tell that there's a door there, so most people don't realize they can go in that way.
Who cares?
Often, even the employees, when they're going in and out of there, will just step over the gate. So it's much more inconvenient than coming in through the front door.
So most of the customers use the front door for entry and exit?
Yes.
And that entry and exit would lead you out onto San Vicente?
Yes.
Now, the street indicated right here, where I have the red dot, can you see that?
Yes, that's Gorham.
That's Gorham? Okay. And then this street here is San Vicente?
Yes.
Thank you, I have nothing further.
All right, guys. We did it. We're going to leave it with that for today. We'll do OJ again tomorrow. Do not worry. Thank you so much for coming out. I really, really appreciate it. I shall see you guys very, very soon. Bye. Thank you.